Alrighty, it's day 2, and we are going to read some more chapters from the infamous Ratsos. I think we left off on chapter 3. Alright, the Fluffy Special. This is Florinda Rabitsky. She just moved to the big city. Mr. Ferretti announces to his students, including Louie. I like being called Fluffy, Florinda says meekly, looking at the floor. Her name sounds funny, and she looks weird, says Chad Badgerton. At lunch, no one sits with Fluffy Rabitsky. She picks out her lunch of lettuce and raw vegetables and carrot juice. She seems sad and lonely. As always, the Ratso brothers sit together and eat their cheddar cheese sandwiches. Check out that new girl, says Louie. She smells like carrots, says Ralphie. Her name is Fluffy Rabitsky. She seems like a softie, says Louie. Even her name sounds soft. He wrinkles his nose and then he reaches into his brain and picks out another tough idea. That night, before they go to bed, the Ratso brothers make their cheddar cheese sandwiches for the next day. They also make a very special sandwich piled high with the worst foods they can find in the refrigerator. Fluffy Rabitsky is in for a big, stinky surprise, Louie says. At lunch the next day, Fluffy Rabitsky is about to sit by herself. Again, when Ralphie gives her a whistle, Louie pats the seat next to him. Why don't you eat with us, he suggests. Thank you, says Fluffy. She sits down and quietly takes out her sad little lunch of lettuce and raw vegetables and carrot juice. We thought you might like a real big city treat, Louie says, pushing the sandwich in front of her. We call it the Fluffy Special. We made it just for you. Look at how Fluffy's feeling. All those lines around Fluffy. There goes her lunch. Fluffy unwraps the sandwich and takes a sniff. Her eyes grow wide. Ralphie doesn't know whether to laugh or pinch his nose. The sandwich smells beyond awful. But then Fluffy Rabitsky grabs the sandwich with both paws and takes a huge bite. She says, swallowing. Pickled mushrooms and beets and eggplant, just like my Nana used to make. How did you know? We didn't, Louie says, but Fluffy is too busy enjoying her sandwich to care. When she finishes, she pats her belly and looks at the Ratso brothers with shining eyes. I've been missing my old house and my Nana since we moved here, she explains. You two are the first to make me feel at home. I can't wait to tell everyone how generous you've been to me. We're not generous. We're tough, Louie insists, but Fluffy Rabitsky is not listening. She's licking her lips, still tasting that sandwich. Is this seat taken? Asks Tiny Crawly, sliding in next to Fluffy. Louie throws up his hands. Maybe I should just come up with the next idea, suggests Ralphie. So the tough guy idea on my stop and shop, me and my boys, we said the tough guy idea was make Fluffy a disgusting sandwich. They want to be mean to the new girl. The good guy problem. Nana used to make that sandwich for Fluffy, and she feels happy. So now they are no longer considered the mean, tough guys, right? They're considered the nice guys who help the new girl. Chapter 5. The Porcupine Window. We're going to stop here because after this one, there's only 2 more chapters left. So at least one more day. On the way home from school on Friday, the Ratso brothers pass by Mrs. Porcupini's house. Mrs. Porcupini spends her days leaning against her cane and staring out her window with a sour expression on her face. Look at that. Look at that expression. She looks rough. Don't want to make that lady mad, huh? Like she's just sucked on a pickle. She seems to reserve her sourest looks for the Ratso brothers. Ralphie Ratso's brain is not quite as big as his brother's, but it is filled to the brim with ideas. He reaches in and pulls out a nasty one. After Big Lou gets home and the Ratso brothers eat their dinner and wash the dishes and put them away and get into bed and turn out the light, Ralphie whispers his plan to his brother. Then he says, "After tonight, everyone in the neighborhood will know how tough the Ratso brothers are." They wait until they hear Big Lou snoring, and then they sneak out of the apartment and down the stairs and outside. They creep over to Mrs. Porcupini's house. Ralphie reaches into his pocket and pulls out 2 big bars of soap. "Let's teach that prickly pickle not to give us sour looks," he whispers. "When she looks out her window tomorrow morning, she won't be able to see a thing." "Pretty clever," says Louie, though he still considers himself the smart one. The brothers begin rubbing soap all over Mrs. Porcupini's window. When they're done, they have plenty of soap left over. "Let's keep going," says Ralphie. "Let's keep going," says Ralphie. The Ratso brothers soap each and every one of Mrs. Porcupini's windows. By the time they're done, the sun is coming up. Louie lets out a big, long yawn. "Shh," says Ralphie. But the sound has already woken up Mrs. Porcupini. She goes to the picture window and lets out a little yelp of surprise. So knowing what we know about this book, we could probably take a moment to think, is it going to follow the same patterns as the other chapters? And is their wonderfully mean, tough guy plan going to turn in them looking like a nice guy? Or are they going to start looking like tough guys? The Ratso brothers start running, but they've been awake all night soaping windows, so they're too tired to run very fast. And Mrs. Porcupini is already calling for them from her front porch, so they don't get very far. "Louie and Ralphie Ratso," she shouts, "come here this instant." "We're really in trouble now," Ralphie says. "Finally," says Louie. When they climb the steps of the front porch, the Ratso brothers can I'm just going to reread that last sentence. When they climb the steps of the front porch, the Ratso brothers can see that Mrs. Porcupini's sour pickle expression is gone. In its place is an expression that looks very much like delight. "I haven't been able to wash my own window since I hurt my knee," Mrs. Porcupini explains. "It pains me to look out a dirty window. You boys saw someone in need and did something about it. I can't wait to tell everyone in the neighborhood how helpful you are." "We're not helpful. We're tough," Ralphie insists. But Mrs. Porcupini isn't listening. She is too busy showing them where the garden hose is and how to hook it up. The Ratso brothers spend the rest of the morning rinsing off all the soap until Mrs. Porcupini's windows sparkle in the sun. So their idea was to make Mrs. Porcupini's windows dirty with soap so they wouldn't see her scowl anymore. Their sour pickle face. But keeping with the pattern of the book so far, this author's craft is teaching us something, isn't it? She thinks they are cleaning her windows since she hasn't done it since she hurt her knee. No, everybody in the neighborhood's going to hear about it. All right, so the chapter that we will read tomorrow looks good. Chapter 6, He Did It. So, I see that some of you are watching our videos, but I haven't heard from you yet. So let me know if you're watching them. Let me know what you think about this book. Can't wait to talk to you guys about it on September 26th in the library. All right. Have a good night, my little Rattler friends.